Oh, my bad. I don't know what happened there.
Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to Fright Night. Oh, wait, wrong show. Welcome to the In Search of Darkness '90s backer Q&A, exclusive for everybody here. It's a pleasure to see everybody. I'm in. Am I offline? Can you even
No,
see
no,
me?
you're here. We can see you, Dave. Don't worry.
Okay, all right, awesome. Um, how's everybody doing today on a Sunday? Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Dominic Willis, producer of In Search of Darkness collectively these days. And of course, the man behind the curtain, Andrew Dalton. He's waving
Our
and saying,
personal puppet master.
"Yes, exactly. We are nothing without Andrew pulling the strings." And I'm sorry, everyone, that I missed the last one. I had all intention of being here for you at the last Q&A that we did. That was about a month ago, right? Or was that 2 months ago? Either way, I was sick as a dog, and you wouldn't have wanted to see me. You would rather just want to watch a horror movie instead.
Two
Um,
wonderful things happened. Well, not two wonderful things happened, but I was supposed to be there as well. But uh, my child was turning 1. Chris
mm,
is officially 1 years old.
very, very cool. Well, I think you had a better excuse. I think we both had good excuses,
Yeah,
actually. And
shouldn't beat ourselves up.
our fearless leader, Robin Block, courageously stepped in with notes that I had put together, and I think he knows what he's doing, and so I think he admirably held the spotlight. Yeah, Chris is one. Time is flying by. Can you believe it? We're human beings with families. Is that shocking, or are we? I don't know.
It is.
So today we're going to be I've got insanely wonderful news, and you guys already know the news, but the news is that this movie is like next to finished. The documentary is done. All the stuff that we've shot is complete. All the edits that I've been working on with Alex Townley, the amazing editor who puts these things together. He did In Search of Darkness 1990 to 1994, and now he's working on 95 to 99. The rough cut is complete. But now we are in the polish. And what does that mean? Where the polish is where we're putting all the graphics together by our motion graphics guy, Paul Konchak. He's also a jack of all trades, master of many. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. But he will put these graphics together. Alex will put together a lot of these graphics. So when I talk about the graphics, I'm talking about those amazing poster walls. We've got all those together, and something magic happens when you've got this thing put together, but you don't have the graphics in yet. And you kind of feel like, oh gosh, something's missing. But you start doing the polish, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's got this the sprinkle of the In Search of Darkness fairy dust comes on it, and it's exciting when you can go along me watching the poster wall, and I'm like you guys, you're like, oh, there's that movie, I hope they talk about my movie. Oh, they just turned and they went right
They went
next to it.
past it.
I didn't get to it.
It is a
And
wonderful experience. Speaking from behind the curtain aspect, it is a wonderful experience when you see the rough cut and it cuts to a black screen that says like "insert graphic here," and
Yeah,
you hear David explain what's going to happen. You want to see it visually, and then when you see it actually come to fruition and it's somehow better than what you expected, Paul always manages to make things just look that much better than how you imagine them. Even 5 movies in at this point, it's incredible. He's such a talented guy.
it's interesting when you put the rough cut together. You have been working on this so long, and it's really nice to see the pieces come together, but you kind of forget, even though I do this over and over, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to do this over and over. And we are fortunate that you guys come back to support this over and over and over, and tell your friends so they can do it over and over and over and over. There's this moment where when you're right about to really start that polish, but you're not there yet, and you're sort of at what Robin loves to call the trough of discontent, where you've been working on it so long. I think every creative person has this when they're writing, when they're filmmaking, when they're an artist, whatever they're working on. You've been working so hard on something that you can't see the forest for the trees, and you start saying, "Oh, maybe this isn't good at all. Maybe this is the one that really kind of sucks. I don't know."
When you're
Uh,
trapped in that echo chamber of just yourself and your discontent thoughts, it does. You just hear yourself over and over again. Maybe it's not great.
and that's when the polish and the magic starts happening, and you start seeing the polished and final film segments and chapters, and you get the all the graphics coming in, and you're like, "Oh wait, this is actually kick ass. This is actually really good." So, and of course, the music. We've got Dream Invaders returning. They did In Search of Darkness 90 to 94. They are back. They're a duo based out of Israel, actually. And they do a phenomenal job. They've completed the soundtrack. And today, I've got two treats for everybody here. One, I'm going to play a finished film segment that I've chosen that I think is pretty cool. And then the other thing is I'm going to play not one but two tracks from the soundtrack, from the score by Dream Invaders. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a little Creator VC field trip that some of us got to go on. I was stuck here in Los Angeles with my Los Angeles duties, but Dominic, you went to New York these last couple days. Do
I
tell
did,
why.
yeah. So, John Carpenter, small artist, some of you may have heard of him, was performing a concert. Initially, it was like one night in New York City. And Robin got a bunch of us together and said, "Who wants to go? Who can make it?" And we all decided to have a fan meetup for the Thing Expanded. That is the most central to Carpenter's work, I suppose. Even though he's throughout our entire production, he's been part of almost every single one of our films.
Mm.
If not in person, in name, we've spoken about his films. Just a wonderful creator. And so we got together with some fans. It was a lovely meetup. There was about 20 of us there. We got to meet up with Thomas Waits of The Thing fame.
Very
Such a
cool.
humble guy. We met John Campbell Jr.'s lineage as well. He brought some books for us Creative
Oh, that's
VC
awesome.
guys. I've got the sequel to The Thing from Another World in the other room. He gave that to me. It was such a great experience, and meeting you guys was wonderful. It was so nice. For one, you are so humbling. I don't deserve like the praise I was given. Uh, and Andrew and I were given a lot of praise for our watch parties, and it was just fun. It's still wild to me that people tuned in and think that like elevated Andrew and I to a certain extent. It's surreal, and I thank everyone. It was such a great feeling. It was nice to meet you guys. I'd love to do it again. If you're ever in Vegas, let me know. I'll show you the town. It's fun because you guys are really creative, entertaining people, and it's like just having a drink with a friend, right? We're sharing stories. We're talking about things we love. We talk about the industry that we love, and it's just a fun experience. And then Carpenter just topped off the night with amazing, amazing music. I couldn't express how grand of a concert it was. The venue was grungy. I felt like I hadn't been to a place like that since I was 16, sneaking into concerts. It was wild. Oh,
And
great experience.
so he just played lost themes and known themes. And
He did.
how was his energy? How was his vibe connecting with the audience?
He's a 79-year-old man. I've seen people in their 50s who have less energy than Carpenter. A few people in the audience were saying that, "Oh, he's not as energetic as he used to be." He's in his 70s. The man stood there without assistance the whole like set. He was going around the stage, he was bigging up the audience, he was firing out those devil horns. He had a shocking amount of energy. Far more so than whenever we've interviewed him. His energy levels were elevated. He loves doing this. I think he will perform until he is no longer capable. And given that Ozzy Osbourne did the same thing, I imagine that John is probably gonna be doing it from a chair when he can't walk, but he can walk fine.
Yeah, that's
He
awesome.
he was great, and he played music from his films with scenes from the films, playing in the background. He played some of his original music. Uh, the whole band was just energetic. Okay, he was the oldest man there by a solid, like, potentially half a century. They all looked like youngsters beside him, but it was a good time. Great
That's
music.
excellent. That's it's like, I think, because we love him for his film work and, of course, his music, it's very cool to see him, wanting to connect with the audience and getting that energy. He's an energy vampire now. He's feeding off of everyone's, love and support and, just
Perhaps
just
that's why I
rocking
was so
out. That's
tired.
awesome. Um, so I want to share with some stuff with everybody. But before I do that, I want to add, just you were talking about the, meeting, some of the fans and the backers. We are all about community, as well as creating documentaries that we are very passionate about, and having watch parties on Sundays and backer Q&As for our various projects. You guys make this important for us. We love doing it, but having you guys here, just to be part of the experience and the social experience, and to connect with other like-minded fans who love all this stuff, horror genre, you name it. It's really special to us, and I never want that to be felt like it's taken for granted. We really value it, and we're excited. This is a very exciting time for us, because we're on the verge of being able to release yet another opus that everyone, including us making it, have to wait like, a year or more to get it out. It's we all so any parent here knows what it's like waiting 9 months. You're excited for your baby to be born, but once the baby has arrived, your world changes in all sorts of wonderful ways. And so, yeah, so now we're doing the graphics, we're doing the music, doing the sound mix, doing color correction. We have yet to do the end credits because, as you guys all know, we're doing our final pre-sale currently between now and Halloween night at the stroke of midnight. So that means if you have not ordered it, pre-ordered it, or you have friends who might be interested, and you can tell them, send them to 90shorrordoc.com.
There's the
And
two-piece box set as well, so if you hadn't got the first part of the '90s and you want the whole set, that's available for pre-order.
absolutely. And if you missed, if people still don't have the whole In Search of Darkness '80s trilogy, you can get physical media. Physical media. It's the time where we make our stuff, and we make, manufacture, and distribute it ourselves. And so, but yeah, we haven't done the end credits because we're gonna everyone who backs out between the first campaign and this final campaign, you get your name in the end credits. And also, I don't have the specifics of how, but you guys know how, who've done it in the past, where we are going to invite everyone again to submit a 30-second video where you talk about your love of horror, of 90s horror, of a particular 90s film, a particular 90s filmmaker. And I am going to insert as many of you guys as I can in the end credits to really connect the community element with these documentaries. So we're going to do that again after the final sale ends on Halloween. Look on our socials, and we'll send something in email as well, telling you how to go about that. And I invite everyone to share your love for the horror genre and be part of horror history, that kind of stuff. So, without further ado, I'm going to show a film segment from In Search of Darkness 1995 to 1999. There are so many, and so it's hard to choose. It's hard to choose, but I kind of thought, well, what's a good one that's not too much of a spoiler? It's a little more of a deep cut, and it has the director of the film talking all about it. It's a film that was meant a lot to me, because when it came into theaters, I remember I did not see it, but I remember seeing it on the video store shelves. I'd go back and forth, and I remember seeing the box art for this and casually thinking to myself, "Wait, is this part of the Hellraiser universe? Is there it looks like someone's stuck in a lament configuration, the cube. What is the cube?" And I just out of curiosity, I rented this movie. It instantly became one of my all-time unsung favorites. You know, anyone who knows Cube, it's like a secret handshake. Like, yeah, of course, yeah, you know Cube is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. This was a film that got me into some trouble at my primary school because I was
Really?
known as the guy that knew a lot of movies, and I recommended quite a few of my friends watch The Cube. And so I lent out my VHS tape to them. Their parents told the school that this is inappropriate for their children to watch, and they all blamed me. So I got into some trouble for that.
Well, it's too much of a of an allegory for what it's like being stuck in the
Ex
classroom.
school, exactly, yeah. Good with traps and everything.
So, before I show this, I just want to say one additional thing, and that's how cool it is when I've decided I want to do a movie in cover a movie or highlight a movie or spotlight a movie in Search of Darkness. Obviously, there's so many. And In Search of Darkness 95 to 99, we have 71 film segments. By the way, I want to make sure that I add that every time I make In Search of Darkness, it creeps a little more in terms of running time. I wanted to make sure that In Search of Darkness 95 to 99, I wanted to make sure that this movie, this documentary, was at least a good balance to the 6-hour opus. It was really like 5 hours and 35 minutes and then about 25 minutes of credits. So I'm like, I will most definitely, that is my intention to make another 6-hour total film. And Well, I say it every time, and every time it's a true statement. This is now the longest In Search of Darkness documentary I've made. This is now 6 hours, not including credits. It's 6 hours completely. So it's even 25 minutes longer than the last one. So I'm excited to include Cube as one of those. It's very cool when you pick a segment and you hope that you can get some talent from it. Doesn't always happen. Vincenzo Natali, the director, very talented director of Cube. He's also got another amazing movie that's a favorite of mine, Splice, executive produced
Mm.
by Guillermo del Toro. He said, absolutely, let's talk. And he sat down in Toronto. And by the way, whenever something is not in Los Angeles, Dominic does his magic and finds amazing local talent to shoot interviews. If we can't be there in person, we do it over the ones and zeros. Uh, anyway, I'm doing lots of talking without showing you this clip, am I? I think I'm just buttering it up a little too much. I was super, super, super excited that Vincenzo Natali was happy to sit down with us. He's incredibly articulate, incredibly thoughtful, loves movies. He's all over our documentary talking about things other than Cube as well. But here for you is the Cube segment. Andrew, please roll it.
We are the key. The cube is us.
Cube is about 6 strangers who wake up in a maze of identical rooms that are all cubes. Some rooms are safe and some rooms have booby traps, and they have to work together to find a way to escape.
There's a way in here, so there's gotta be a way out. We can avoid the traps using the boot. We just have to stay calm and work together as a team.
I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if you made a film that took place entirely in hell? And then I thought, what is the 21st century version of hell? What's our contemporary version? And I thought it would be a geometric hell. It would be a Bauhaus hell. It would be modern architecture. It would be mathematical.
Of course, coded Cartesian coordinates. The numbers tell us where we are inside the cube.
The writing of it, which I did with my lifelong friend Andrei Bajelic, I just sort of stumbled on this very archetypal concept, and for that reason it resonated. The initial draft that I wrote entirely on my own was much more absurdist and fantastical. There was moss on the walls, and there was a kind of minotaur, although not really, in the maze, and it just had a lot of stuff. I usually find in writing, it's about, after that first draft, it's about pulling things away.
Only the government could build something this ugly.
Oh, it ain't government.
Then what is it?
these people should arrive in the cube with nothing but the clothes on their back. There's nothing there to help them, and the ticking clock of the movie is they're going to starve or die of dehydration.
Heat, stress, physical exertion as the body eventually begins to break down its own tissue.
Cube, like many horror films, I think it's dealing with something very primal. It is tweaking a nerve that felt a bit raw at that moment in the mid-90s, like an existential nerve. It was like a sense of like, well, what are we doing here? What is our future?
I mean, nobody wants to see the big picture. Life's too complicated. Let's face it, the reason we're here is that it's out of control.
The set itself was 1.5 cubes. So when desired, we could have a cube that was 6 walls plus a cube that was 3 walls. So you could carry the characters from one room to another. You always had a view into another room. And we could pull out one wall from the 6-wall cube, which is generally how we shot the film. But the problem with that was that only gave me a 180-degree view. It shows the magic of cinema that it feels like a fully enclosed set. I'm sure I'd be the first person to die in the cube. I wouldn't last a minute. My favorite death in Cube is the first one, played by the ubiquitous Julian Richings, who gets literally cubed by a wire mesh. We met this amazing makeup effects company called Caligari, and they built a silicone replica, which was basically a building block set. You just stacked it all together, and on the very last day, the very last shot, which came after 30 consecutive hours of shooting, we shot Julian being cubed, and we got it in one take. Thank God. Life imitated art on Cube because being in the cube was a kind of psychological experiment, because the cube itself was lit by literally thousands of 100-watt bulbs outside of the plexiglass walls. So in a very short order, it became an oven. And then add to that, the colors of the walls had an impact on people psychologically. And there's no question that when we were in the red room, that's when people kind of went crazy. But I think in a positive way, it kind of bled into the performances. Like there was a real tension on the set.
Put us out of your misery so we can get on with getting out of here.
Oh, you're not getting out of here.
Yes, we are!
There is no way out of here!
We never really had enough money or time to do the movie, as is often the case. So it was a super intense, hard process that nearly killed me. In fact, literally so, because at one point the set almost collapsed on top of me. You would think shooting in a box would be really easy, but it's not. It's horrible.
There is a purpose. We are the purpose. The cube is us.
That movie was made at a time when the independent film market was very robust. The video market, which is really where in North America Cube found its audience. I think if Cube were made now, unless we were really lucky, it wouldn't have that kind of life that films could have at that time. It has survived. Like it's a kind of film that you could watch now and maybe not know when it was made. I'm touched and flattered that there are sequels to Cube and a remake, but I never wanted to have anything to do with the sequels because there was kind of only one story to tell in the Cube that I could see.
I'd have to calculate the number of factors in each set.
Figure it out.
I can't!
I'm not dying in a fucking rat maze!
It's about how we are all dropped into this world without being given any kind of formula or math as to how to live our lives, and we're here with other people with whom we choose to make allies or enemies. Kind of defines the road that we take. I think on some level that's really what the movie is about.
You gotta save yourselves from yourselves. That's the real challenge.
All right. That is Cube. A couple things to notice if you guys, now that you can't watch it again until the movie comes out. It was very, very serendipitous that the studio where we shot just happened to have a bunch of frames on the wall where I could have cubes behind the Cube director. I thought that was pretty cool and serendipitous.
I like to think I picked that place on purpose.
I think you did. I think you had an artistic director. I hope everyone noticed that Vincenzo wore his fandom on his sleeve by wearing a Zardoz shirt. Did you catch that? And in the background, of course, there's Dream Invaders music. Now we chose music there to be. We haven't put the music in the entire documentary yet, but because we were having this for you guys today, we wanted to make sure that we put in some music so you had a completed segment to watch. That was a little more sort of ambient, atmospheric. When I talked to Dream Invaders, when I talked to Weary Pines for In Search of Darkness trilogy and In Search of Tomorrow, um, there's a process of putting together music that's both more in the foreground and more in the background. And it's sort of a tough balance, but some of the music is sort of directly inspired by the segments that we're doing. Others is more something that could be applied later as it best fits to create some mood and atmosphere, to change it up maybe halfway through just to keep things interesting. There's a whole method to the madness. But with that segment, I want to single out some folks. Dominic, thank you for finding that amazing spot for us in Toronto. Um, and a cameraman that we used again 2 more times when we shot 2 more interviews in Toronto. Um, this documentary and wait, I'm already getting distracted by my own brain. I want to single out, Alex Townley, our editor, our intrepid editor. He has absolute intuition. What I'll do is when I get the raw footage, I will script all the bites and put them together as a script, and I will give it to him, and he will give me the rough the rough footage. Excuse me, the rough footage. I'm gonna have a drink. He'll have the rough footage and put it together, and then we'll sort of see what works, what the body language is like. Does this tell a good evolved tale? And then what I like to do is I have very specific ideas of what clips I want, but I prefer to give it to Alex first and just put the clips together, put the piece together. Let's see what you got. And I got to tell you, he makes my job super easy because he's so intuitive, connected to what the dialogue is and what the talent is talking about, that you can really see in his choices. It really helps tell the story, even when they're not very specifically describing a particular thing like a kill. So he does an amazing job, and he deserves all the credit. And also, of course, Paul Konchak. Paul, depending on the segment, sometimes there's a lot more graphics work. This one's a little less, but he does the poster walls, at least for this one. And we have an amazing team, and we have a very tight team. We have a team that's all over the map. Alex is in the UK, Paul is in Germany, I'm in Los Angeles. We have talent who they work from a moon base, Alpha.
Yeah.
Um, no, all
Dimension
right.
X.
I digress. I digress. But I think now is a good time to play some music. So we're going to have a bit of a listening party. Dream Invaders, they did 40 tracks for the last film. They did 40 tracks for this film, 40 brand new tracks. Um, there is going to be some carryover with some of the best tracks from the previous one. But we managed with the last one with 40 tracks to cover a 6-hour film. And another interesting little nuance and detail that you guys, I think, might be interested in is when we do individual tracks, they average about 2-3 minutes each. But what I have the composer do is sometimes I'll make them loopable if we want to run them longer, or if we want to take a certain section and extend it. But what they also do as well is they do variable speed. So they'll deliver a track in the speed that they intend it to be in, but we'll do a slightly faster track and a slightly slower track. And that allows us to accommodate, when we're putting a segment together, the pacing of the segment, the vibe and the feel and the emotion of the segment. Sometimes you need the music to be faster, so it's not so sleepy. Sometimes you need it to be slower, so you're not feeling rushed watching it. So there's a sort of a method to our madness there. And so there's a lot more work behind the scenes that you guys might realize. Um, 2 tracks. The first track, I'm going to play it in its entirety. The second track, probably about a minute 45 or so. But the first track is about 3 minutes long. It's called Azazel Rising. It's a slow burn in the beginning. So get comfortable, get your headphones on if you got your headphones on. And we're going to play this first one. And so it's a listening party. We're going to listen with our ears for the first 3 minutes. And you got to wait for it to sort of kick in. But I wanted to, rather than just give a quick blurb and say, yeah, that's it, I wanted to play the whole track because I think it's super awesome. All right. Without further ado, Andrew. Right. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it's super cool. And
Absolutely. I
that's
think one of the most difficult things to do in terms of shifting from 80s to 90s is the music. It is such a difficult vibe to get because the 80s shines in a very particular flavor. You say synth, you imagine 80s.
Mhm.
So it's so hard to pinpoint the difference and then say, yeah, you need to do this without just saying, make it more 90s, like make it more
Exactly.
industrial and grungy, make it more 90s. It's such a hard thing to describe.
Well,
But
I think finish your sentence if there's more.
no, yeah, that was the end of my sentence. Go on.
Well, I think it's ultimately you make a great point is that I think when you think about decades, much like the horror, it's easy to just encapsulate and say it was this and that was that. But it's of course more nuanced. Life is more nuanced, but there's also influences on people's sleeves, usually from previous decades, that their creative output during that present decade at the time has either it carves new territory or it's very much got the vibe of previous decades as well, or throwbacks or nostalgia. So music is very, 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 very tough to pinpoint. But I would say collectively, if 80s is synth, 90s is grunge. At least when you think about, things got less computery, keyboard, synth, and the people they brought out the electric guitars and things got fuzzier. So that's an element that we incorporate with the collective music in Search of Darkness. But there's also stuff that's really kind of synth driven, because there was plenty of synth in the 90s as well. The carryovers. And I think a lot of our documentaries benefit really nicely from a synth connection to it. Which brings us to our second track. This one, uh, we'll without further ado. Also, by the way, Andrew, I love the black frame that you put to put the title. That looks awesome. That's nice and goth. Let's listen to the second track. This is from Dream Invaders. By the way, no one's heard this. I don't think even our staff has heard this. It's just me and Valerio of Dream Invaders and Alex, but no one else has heard this stuff. So I'm excited for you guys to hear this. This one is called Suburbanator. All right, that is
How
Suburbanator.
Halloweeny is that sound? That's the secret weapon of buying the In Search of Darkness films. You get the soundtrack too, and it's perfect for Halloween parties. You just put it on, and every track is somehow an absolute banger.
This is I have my own sort of eternal internal sort of barometer. I think how does this best apply to, how can I best apply it? But one of the most fun elements of my job is Valerio will send me tracks, and I live in a very hilly area, so suburbia of Los Angeles, and I'll go out and I'll take a walk in the hills, and I'll plug in and I'll listen to the music. And if I'm vibing to the music, or if I'm feeling the atmosphere of the moment, boy, I have this ear to ear smile on my face. I'm like, yes. So we're very fortunate, Valerio and his wife put it's a duo. They put this together. They're very versatile with their musicianship, and I'm always encouraging them to explore and carve new paths. And I'll just give them either a vibe, some things that I want to kind of sound like this, or I'll just say, do it. Let's hear what you got. And I'm always so pleased and excited for you guys to hear it. So there you go. That's a taste of some of the score for In Search of Darkness 95 to 99. So now I think is probably a good time to take some questions from the audience. If you guys wrote some questions ahead of time, thank you for doing that. If you want to write some questions now, Now's a good time as well. And Dom, if you would field some questions, please throw them my way.
100%. So as we wait for people to get their questions lined up, we have from backer Andrew Mark Holland. Was there anybody you wanted to get but couldn't? In parentheses, name names, please.
Name names. Name names. There's always people that I want. And the outreach process is, Dom, as you know full well, is very, very, very tough. For some reason, the 80s, that was challenging, but the response was a little easier in retrospect to the 90s. And I think because even though the 90s was 3 decades prior,
Uh,
right?
that hurts.
I mean, for us, it's like it was only 10 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, time has a way of screwing us all in the end. That's the one thing we can't fight. But there's something about the talent where a lot of them are still actively working, and sometimes if we could reach the talent directly, they're like, by all means. Or sometimes if they have a manager who really gets why it's beneficial to have them sit down for an In Search of Darkness documentary, we're very lucky. But oftentimes we're dealing with managers, or more specifically agents, or even publicists, who say things like, and this is a quote, and I won't say who it was for, but they're like, "Oh, my client is only looking forward; they're not looking back." So you never know what you're going to get. So of course, listen, we have to put a cap on this at some point. Um, there's 60 interviews in this carried over. There's brand new ones, and then there's ones that are carried over from In Search of Darkness 90 to 94. Because when I sat down with In Search of Darkness 1990 to 1994 cast, I banked part 2 as well. So we would have a conversation about the entire 90s and their favorite movies of the 90s. And if they did a movie that was in the first half or the second half, we would talk about both. But there were still folks that up to the wire, up to September, early September, we were still trying to get select folks who were saying, yes, maybe, kind of, I'd like to.
Are you free in like 2-3 weeks? We've got
Yeah,
this going on right
you
now.
want me to name names? There's people who we want, and but I will specifically, and I won't name these names. So yeah, we wanted to get like Jamie Lee Curtis, especially to talk about Halloween H2O. But I think Jamie is a little Halloweened out right now. So I understand that she can't do it. Or I really want her to get Bruce Campbell for talking about Army of Darkness, but they're a little. He's like, I've been there, I've done that. And that's just sort of the nature of the beast. So the challenge is finding folks who worked on it in a different way, or who are just experts about it. But I talked to 2 artists directly, where I had a conversation where one said, yes, but I'm so busy, I'm not sure if I will be able to do it, but I would be happy to do it. And they just ran out of time with their other obligations, and we just weren't able to do it. And that would have been a cool person. And he said to my face, yes, absolutely, I'd be happy to do it. And sometimes schedules don't align. And there was another one that I reached where I literally got to him. I chatted with him on the phone, and he said, "Thank you so much for inviting me. I don't think I really want to talk about it anymore." I mean, he said that to me, and I know you want me to name names, but I like to keep these, the expectations versus the reality. I like to keep these things private to a certain degree. But I did name drop 2 folks there, so I hope that answers the question. But yeah, we want everybody. But even if, imagine everybody lined up and said, yes, I'll do it, we'd still have to turn people away.
Yeah, the movie would be too big.
Only have the time to do 50 interviews, 60 interviews, 70 interviews. At a certain time, you've got to stop. When I did In Search of Tomorrow, I think I did like 72 interviews. Even though we could have gotten more, at a certain point, you have to stop. I have to stop, because we got to make this movie and turn it around. So Those are probably things you don't like to hear. You want to hear the great names, but I think we got some really cool names. I don't know if you guys have gone to 90shorrordoc.com, but the entire list of everyone who's in Search of Darkness is there. I was super happy to get like Jamie Kennedy to talk all about Scream and Scream 2, and even Scream 3, if you know why that's notable. It was very, very cool to get Rebecca Gayheart talking about urban legend. I really enjoyed talking with Paul W.S. Anderson, talking about Event Horizon. There are just so many folks here. Andrew Devoff, the Wishmaster himself. Such a cool guy, Andy. Did I mention the ring about he sculpted his own ring? But did I show it to you?
I'm shocked that you're not wearing them, to be honest.
He sent me, for those who might not have seen me crow about this, he generously he's an artist, and he sculpted his own Wishmaster ring. And in the interview, he holds them up, and he's got two different styles of rings there. But he said after the interview, Andy's like, I'd love to give you a ring. And I'm like, no, that's generous. You don't have to do it. He's like, no, it would be my pleasure. And he got both me and Octay Ordabasi, our wonderful cinematographer. He sent us both rings. And he said it's going to take about a month or so because they have to be cast and everything like that. And here you go. Here's the ring. Look at that. Can you see?
It's wild that you can have blacksmith on his resume.
Right? Look at that thing. Look at that thing. Look at that.
Yeah.
Thing.
Oh,
awesome.
Look at that. Yeah.
Anyway,
getting clocked in the face by that.
You guys can get one too, but it's not so easy. It doesn't have a site where you just order it. He literally said, like, go ask my agent. So yeah, you guys have to navigate that, but they are available if you do want to buy one. Let's go for another question, please.
Absolutely. From the comments live, we have Samuel Kondo asking, is there a movie you would have liked to have included but could not? Well, how many movies have to cut from the process?
Well, you kind of answered my question for me in a good way, because yes, this is the longest In Search of Darkness yet, as usual. But I still cut out about 90 minutes of footage, whether the interviews were extended or literally complete segments we had to lose. I will give you some good news. It was on the chopping block. I did cut it out, but then after some navigation and coordination, I was able to put it back in, and I will reveal an exclusive segment that's back in and is in the final cut. Extra 3.
We made it.
Yes, I say that because Dominic is like our resident Extra fan. Yeah. And of course, you got Andy Devoff, Andrew Devoff, and Harry Bromley Davenport, the director, talking about it. It's a fun little bit. I say bit because he says sometimes it's a little bitty. But yeah, there's what didn't make it. There's plenty of stuff. That's the problem. Is as a completist who wants to include everything, we all know that can't be the case. There's just too much good stuff. We all know in the 90s there was a huge amount of material, especially when you include straight to video, but even theatrical stuff. I mean, I at one point I was like, I really want to do Fallen, Gregory Hoblit movie starring Denzel Washington and John Goodman. I really wanted to include that because I thought that was really kind of cool and sort of captured the post-7 close to end of days vibe in there.
An amazing cast as well.
Yeah. Insane. But and reaching out to to the talent, but at a certain point, sometimes my decisions are just dictated by if I can't get the talent, and so that one fell by the wayside. And
from Christopher Hastings, this is a backer. They have asked.
Can I interrupt real quick before you ask that one? Gary is asking, did I interview Charles Band? and I just want to jump on that one. And that is, I sat down with Charles Band, at his office for In Search of Darkness 1994, and I banked some wonderful material. Of course, we all know Castle Freak, but there's some other ones as well. And so I was happy to talk with Charlie Band, who I used to work for in the early 90s, working at Full Moon Entertainment. So it's always fun when you sit across from Charlie Band and you remind him that you worked for him, and he goes, and instead of "Hey, that's great," he goes, "Uh oh," because he knows I know where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
All right, what's the other question?
Of course, yeah. Christopher Hastings asks, which upcoming projects are you most excited to work on?
Well, if you guys recall, not everyone might have filled out the survey that Robin and James from Creator VC sent out to everybody. That was really not about a specific film, but it was more a survey about what would you like to see from Creator VC. And it was things that you could fill in. It was multiple choice things. You guys could make suggestions. You also had things to choose from. And what I want to do and what you guys are asking me to do, or hoping that I will do, are just wonderfully, perfectly aligned, because I will happily brag that the top choice doesn't make it the best choice, because we have all these other amazing projects that you guys wanted as well. But in terms of votes, just literally the amount of votes, you guys would like to see In Search of Darkness 70s. And I am more than happy to oblige, and I'm excited to dive into that. As soon as I put the final dot the last I, cross the last T, the print dries for In Search of Darkness 95 to 99, I will get right to work on In Search of Darkness 70s. But there's one other project that was a surprise, maybe to all of us, that you guys wanted. And by the way, we want to do more expanded films. And Ian Nathan wants to continue after he finishes The Thing Expanded. He's happy to do that as well. So keep your eye out for any announcements that we might make in the near future for that. But there was a title that you guys, that we introduced many years ago, and we did lots of social media for it, and it had its own Twitter handle and stuff like that. And there was lots of enthusiasm, but we didn't have a proper gauge of how much enthusiasm there really was. And you guys voted to have In Search of Legends, which is all about fantasy, fantasy films. And fantasy films could be anything. It could be Conan the Barbarian and Excalibur, but it could also be Labyrinth. There are all sorts of fantasy films. I just watched on Disney, because it just came up on Disney Plus, Something Wicked This Way Comes. That, in my mind, is like an ideal fantasy related film that sort of has its foot in, kinder trauma horror, gateway horror, and all sorts of stuff. Plus, anything with a carnival is kind of creepy and scary. But
Yeah,
there's lots of
absolutely.
fantasy there, and anyway, so that, I hope that answers your question. What do I look forward to doing next? I look forward to doing more amazing projects with this amazing team at Creator VC, working with Robin at the top of the masthead, working with Dom and Andrew and everyone on our small but intense and passionate and determined and tenacious team and creative team. So we're very fortunate to have a real tight team of creatives who loves doing this stuff and loves the incentives that you guys give us, saying that you guys want it and giving us your suggestions. And I've really come to embrace that community element of powering these documentaries.
Absolutely. We have time for about one more question.
We
And
could,
luckily,
maybe we can go. Oh wait, do we have an actual cutoff? Because I've lost track of time.
it's a just soft cutoff.
Soft cutoff. Okay, we can go a little longer. I know you guys. We all have to
Yeah.
have like lunch and change your
Yeah.
baby's diapers, but
So from Baka Kotomine, and luckily, two of their questions can be merged to one.
Okay.
What do you think is a horror movie that deserves more attention? And what is the horror movie that you like to watch on Halloween? What's your favorite
Mm,
Halloween watch?
those are good. Those are good. Well, in terms of with the horror movie we're talking about, are we talking about 90s horror movie? Likely.
Not specified, but I'd say 90s. Yeah.
I
What's
will
a
give
90s hidden gem?
since we're not since there was no specific about 90s or not. I will say one from the 70s that I've been championing lately is Horror Express. Is it Terror
Oh,
Express? Wait,
Horror Express. Is it
yeah,
Terror
Horror
Express?
Express.
It's Horror Express,
I have
right?
Terrifier on my brain, so Horror Express with Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee. It's so good. It's so
It's
good,
so good.
and it's also kind of thing tangential.
It
It's sort
is.
of inspired by Campbell's, Who Goes There. So if you guys haven't seen that, it's a lark, especially with Telly Savalas. Telly Savalas just shows up halfway in and just steals the show. It's so fun.
And the
Um,
soundtrack is great.
yeah,
It's got a
and
cool theme.
but of course, 90s. There's so many to choose from, and I'm always loath to pick any particular one. But I think Cemetery Man, aka Delamore Delamorte, is one that I really love to single out because that to me was a surprise in that I walked by that video box on the shelf so many times, turning up my nose saying Cemetery Man. That sounds boring, you know. And then someone said, "Oh, you got to see this amazing Italian horror movie called Delamore Delamorte." I'm like, "Italian horror? That sounds great. Let's watch it." And then I realized that they were one and the same. And it did not change my opinion. It just said to my inner snob, boy, you really got to read more of the back of these boxes, before you just walk by the cover art if you don't like it. Anyway, that's an amazing movie, and I highly recommend that. Uh, when I have a steady diet of, literally the last 2 years, I've seen more 90s horror collectively than I watched in the 90s. And I watched a lot of 90s horror in the 90s in real time. Um, Usually around Halloween, around spooky season, I like a palate cleanser.
Mm.
And I add that usually means for me going back to basics. And I usually go right. I love putting on classic Universal horror. And I love seeking out sort of more left of center Hammer films as well that I haven't seen before. And On my brain lately, 1979 John Badham's Dracula is
Ooh.
really great, and I love putting that on usually at least once a year. And spooky season is a good time to do it for me. That movie meant a lot to me because that was the first rated R movie that my dad took me to go see. And so not only is it a great film that I really, really, really enjoyed, but it's a happy memory of bonding with my dad. And my mom took me to see Frank Langella in Edward Gorey's Dracula on the stage. Off Was it on Broadway or just an off Broadway? Either way, it was around Broadway. And so I saw that before I saw the film. So that means a lot to me. And like all of us, these movies sometimes mean more than just the movie. It's
Absolutely.
who you were with. It's who you were at the time. Did you sneak this movie when you shouldn't have? Did you see it when you were a little too young? Did you see it with a cousin, a friend, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, did an uncle or took you there's all this connection with the people who you're with, and you have this amazing nostalgic memory that's more than just the movie itself. So these things are
Yeah.
so special to all of us.
I'm going to throw you a weird one. The VHS franchise is very hit and miss, right?
Mm.
I still think that anthology found footage horror can be really good. And VHS 94, I think it's called, is
Mhm.
genuinely great. If you haven't
Oh
seen
yeah.
it, most of those segments are phenomenal. Great practical effects all around. It's just such a good time. And the way that it tries to be as like gritty and grungy as it could possibly be is fantastic. Highly recommend it to everyone. Watch if you're gonna watch any VHS film, 94. Go watch that one.
Yeah, and there's a new one that just came out, the Halloween one as well.
Yeah, Halloween.
And
I've heard it's hit and miss. It's got some good stuff. It's got some bad stuff.
I commend any franchise that gets to keep on going, and especially as an anthology franchise. You know,
Yeah.
there's anthologies. Brian Yuzna is In Search of Darkness 95, 99, talking about Necronomicon. And that is a really great anthology film. Jeffrey Combs as H.P. Lovecraft himself. It's 3 different stories, insane, amazing practical effects. But Brian will be the first one to say he thought it was a really good movie and it didn't do well. And he realized, or he felt, that audiences don't respond as strongly to anthology movies because they kind of want a one consecutive story. Maybe they feel it's a bit bitty, and I love the. By the way, I love the Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors.
One
Every
of my favorite
year,
episodes.
I
Yeah.
love the Treehouse of Horrors, and one of my best friends is an artist. His name is Eric Keys, and he is a character designer. He's been with The Simpsons since the beginning. And he gets to do all this stuff, and he tells me amazing stories about like when Guillermo del Toro did the entire intro, you know, for Treehouse of Horror and things like that. It's very, very cool. Big Simpsons fan for that. I also stay contemporary as well. I mean, I was late to the party because I didn't get to see it in the theater, but I just watched Bring Her Back by the Philippou twins brothers, and
It
wow,
hurts.
say
It
no more.
hurts.
And I watched with my my wife, who doesn't like horror but loves true crime. So she bowed out of Back to Her. She's like, no way, I'm not going to watch that. But she sat with me, ironically, to watch Monster, the Ed Gein story,
Yes.
because that's a little more true crime. So she connects with that more. And boy, that's alternately entertaining and horrifying at the same time. And any Ryan Murphy show will always go to extremes and probably stretch the truth quite a bit, but it's good for this spooky season. Maybe top off
Absolutely.
with one final question.
Yeah, I was going to say on the note of anthologizing certain things, Gary Makin asks, have you ever considered breaking up the documentary into episodes like I have done with other documentaries?
Yeah, that's always been a consideration. The first time we made this as a Kickstarter for the first In Search of Darkness, there was never a thought about it. If anything, it was meant to be a 2-hour movie, haha, where we had a stretch goal to make it 3 hours, haha, if we reached our stretch goal. And we met I think within 24 hours, we got our budget and more. Because the response was so wonderful. And thanks, by the way. I'm very proud of my glowing pumpkin. And ever since, people have said, why so long? And of course, the structure demands it when you want to cover so many films, especially in a decade, and have larger context chapters in between to create better context for the era as a big jigsaw puzzle. But if you go to Letterboxd, which is kind of, I'm all over social media, and I take copious notes when you guys write what you like and what you dislike, and that's fine if you dislike things. I take constructive criticism well. You have to in this job, and if anything, it helps me in improving the way I make these documentaries. But I would find when I go on Letterboxd, more often than not, so many people will say, I wish this was longer, or I'm, only 6 hours. Why not 24/7? And I would laugh at first saying, haha, that's funny. How cute. But so many people have said it that I've come to believe that the way we package these, the way we sell them, in our pre-sales and our final sales and everything like that, create an interactive experience like we're doing right now. At the end of the day, people want more bang for their buck when they get this documentary, which is so easily divided in the segments already. You can stop and start as you like. So yes, it's convenient if you want to watch it as like a series. In fact, In Search of Darkness and In Search of Tomorrow for European versions were turned into series. But it's a lot of work to do that. It's a lot of work to make a movie, and just in the format that we use to turn it around. I mean, we just make it by the hair of our chinny chin chin, and it's a lot of work. And I need to pass out for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and then I wake up saying, In Search of Darkness 70s. I got to start. Let's do it. And I'm invigorated again because I've had a nice rest. But unfortunately, these are made, not unfortunately, fortunately, it's for our backers, our community, for you guys. And for the most part, you guys welcome this long form. We don't make this for TV distribution. We make this to go directly to you guys. If it ends up on Shudder, if it ends up on European television, that's sort of the icing on the cake. But the idea is we make these directly for you guys as one large project.
Absolutely. And I can speak a little bit on this because I also worked on Terabytes, which was an episodic series. There is a different mentality into making. You've worked in television as well, don't you? You know the difference between making television and movies. Movies as a singular project has a singular flow, as do episodes of TV. They have individual like flows, a start, middle, and end. When, like you said, you can break down In Search of Darkness and watch it cleanly, episodically, but it's still a whole project, right? You can't watch episode 1, episode 2, and then say, I think I'm good. Like, you won't get the picture. And if we were to break it down and make it an episodic format, it would require a lot of restructuring. And honestly, I think it would look and feel different to what In Search of Darkness is. In Search of Darkness is this big, meaty example of what the decade we're looking at was. And so having it be as bulky as it is, you feel the weight of everything we've shown you at the end, at the climax of those films. There's always a sense of finality. And for me, I always get a bit emotional when In Search of Darkness, whichever movie I'm watching, is wrapping up. And normally it doesn't feel like 6, 7, 12 hours have flown by. But it does have that weight of an ending. And if you had that punch at the end of every single episode of the 26 episode long In Search of Darkness we'd have to make, it might exhaust you emotionally. I think the method we're doing it in a movie format has proven to be the best format. And the fact that people ask it to be longer, the fact that people keep asking for more is a good sign. That means they want more. We'll make another movie. Don't worry about it.
I agreed. Sorry, I was doing a little behind the scenes back and forth. I mean, I'm game for maybe another question or two. Unless you guys are, I want to be mindful of Dominic and Andrew's time, but you guys are here and asking questions, and I'm warmed up and caffeinated. So, we could mention, cover another question or 2 or 3, and then we'll wrap.
From Andrew Mark Holland. David, how many of these films have you seen? Have you seen each and every one that we've put in the movie?
Well, like Heather Langenkamp told me, I don't really like horror. So,
This is where you out yourself. I've seen 5 horror films.
Wouldn't that be shocking? What a fraud. I don't know. Well, no, I do know. I do. I'm just making jokes. But what I will say is that every movie that goes in Search of Darkness I've seen, but there are some asides where there'll be a mention of a film, and I know of it because of course I include it. But sometimes I haven't seen the entire film, and I put that on my own personal queue, like, oh, I got to see that. But I have the greatest homework in the world. I get to, during the 90s, I watched the lion's share of everything that ends up in Search of Darkness, but not everything. Because in the 90s, I was a bit more of a film snob. I was working on movies. I had just come out of film school, and I had this sort of division in my brain. This is back in the 90s, so this is a while ago. I have evolved since then. But I would see everything in the theater. But I'd go and I'd look at the video store for things I missed and stuff. And I would see things that were straight to video. For a time there, I was just like, well, if it wasn't theatrical, it can't be good. And so I wouldn't rent it. Because I kind of felt like maybe if the studios didn't think it was good enough, why am I going to waste my time knowing that it's not going to be so good? But of course, I was completely wrong. And part of the joy of diving back into the 90s for now 12 plus hours of exploration, getting that started, I was actually very excited to jump on a bunch of titles that, I had never seen before. Like, I'll be the first to say I had never seen Dr. Giggles. I'd seen the trailer, I'd seen bits and pieces, but I never watched Dr. Giggles beginning to end. And I was just like, hey, now's the time. And I had never seen Extra 3, Dominic, until I was ready to interview Andy Divoff, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about Extra 3. And
A lot of people aren't ready for the magnum opus that is Extra.
That's right.
Speaking of magnum opuses,
Yes.
Cerberus Mutt is asking live, do you sometimes feel that there is a song that is too good to use? So
Not to use.
sorry, too good to not use. So you have to find a reason to use it. Like from our soundtrack, that we have got this song and it's great, and we need to use this song, so we have to force it into a particular area, or does it organically just work well? Have we ever had music that's too good for our movies?
Yeah, well, sometimes the music is so good that it overwhelms the, like, I've said this is really great music, and I've put it in a segment, and it dominates the segment to the point where it's distracting from the segment. And so that's a really wonderful question, because fundamentally you have to make hard decisions where the music's awesome, but guess what? It now is dominating the moment where they're conflicting. They're conflicting. And so I have to say that sounded like a good idea at the time, literally and figuratively, but now we just got to put something a lot less in your face, because I'm not paying attention, or I want to pay more attention to the music than I do the subject talking, and the subject is interesting. So you got to scale that back. In fact, you guys all saw the Cube, the Cube film segment. You guys noticed that the music was really kind of subdued, and I played 2 different tracks for you for Dream Invaders. Would either of those been good for that? Maybe, but they probably would have dominated more. And so it made more sense to have something a little more subdued.
That's the beauty with working with composers as well. You can say, this is great, can we tone it down a bit? And so the music is still there, still present, but it organically grows with the film, and we can make it fit and not force it to fit. We can say, oh, this is great, but it is too distracting. Can we maybe bring it down, like from an 11 to like a 6,
Yeah.
to let the film speak and work in harmony? That's the beauty of a soundtrack with a composer, as opposed to, we have this song that the composer's given us and it will not change, and we have this film that will not change, and we've got to make them collide. That's why it's so important to have composers that know what they're doing. I can only think of one instance in film that a composer has just known what they're doing, and that's Tron and Daft Punk. If you've heard any stories there, the Daft Punk guys were just like, we don't know how to score a film. Here's some music. Does it work?
Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's better. They just create some wallpaper and you work around it, I mean, that's what Kubrick did. Kubrick had a whole score for 2001. But he had a temp score of Strauss and classics, and when he listened to the music that he specifically commissioned for his own movie, he's just like, nah, I just don't. I like
I'm gonna
what
go
I
with the
chose.
temp.
Yeah. I do. Mikhail Smirnov, who is from Russia, in Russia, it says it's a pity that there's no In Search of Darkness horror in Russia in the 90s, and I agree that there is. But I have to say that one of the amazing things is, In Search of Darkness. One of the reasons why all you guys who are listening now, it's so important, is that you guys support us. It takes a lot of money, time, and effort, blood, sweat, and tears to make these documentaries, but inevitably they end up in other countries, and people will just put them on the black market. But I have to say, one of the thrills that I got when we did the first In Search of Darkness was someone brought to my attention that there was a Russian poster for In Search of Darkness, and subtitles. But I got to say, they took Clayton, who did the amazing art of the boy sitting in front of the TV, our in-house amazing artist, Clayton Benj. I found this where they took the In Search of Darkness logo and they swapped it out with the Russian language version of it. And I was like, perhaps now we've made it. I think we've made it because our reach
Yeah,
now is in Russia.
when there's people bootlegging your work, you've made it.
Any last question or two, and then we'll wrap it up?
Absolutely. From backer Gary Makin again. Do you have placeholder title cards in the documentary for interviewees that you haven't gotten yet?
Now, I assume you mean like as I'm putting the rough cut together.
That's what I'm imagining.
So I know I have someone lined up. So I have Michael Rosenbaum. He was one of the last interviews I did. And
But you lined it up months beforehand, right? So you knew.
Yeah. He's great. He said he was going to do it. I actually lined it up very early, but he has a very busy schedule. And then at one point, his dog had to go to the vet, and he's like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, "No worries. Your dog is the priority." And we were finally able to make it work. By the way, he is like the ultimate horror fan, and I went to his home, and he's got so much amazing, cool horror paraphernalia. I just have to say,
Isn't it great when you meet someone and you just know they're just as nerdy about your particular topic as you are? It's a
awesome.
good feeling, isn't it?
By the way, I'm going to shout out for Michael, who originally was he's been a backer. He's like, "Oh yeah, I've totally backed this. You can see my name in the credits for In Search of Darkness."
I've never caught that.
He has a cool podcast called Inside of You, and I saw his studio and stuff like that. So back to the question is, I knew he was coming, but I was getting towards to the end of the wire. And, so I put together the urban legend, segment, because I had talked to Rebecca Gayhart and some other folks had talked a little bit about urban legend. And, but I knew he was going to come in there. But the thing is, I think I will speak a little bit for Ian Nathan when he does a thing expanded. When he did Aliens Expanded, there were a couple moments where there were cards put in there, and it'll be like James Cameron bite, Sigourney Weaver bite, because a lot of these folks you hope to get, but you probably think you'll never get, but you do hold out hope. And by hook and by crook and by miracle, we got everybody for Aliens Expanded, and that was exciting. So there were placeholders there. I don't do that. I've written these segments the way I script them. I make little notes in my script. So yes, I'm talking a lot because I've never actually had this question before. It's a good question. But so in terms of my process, do I put it in the actual documentary? No, I just make the segment knowing that I will come back to it and we'll redo it. And when I say redo it, it'll be 75% done. I'll get the new interview. In my script, I'll have a couple things that says, Michael Rosenbaum bite here and Michael Rosenbaum bite here. That would make sense. But really, it's not until you get the interview and you see what you got. And sometimes, usually, there's more stuff there. They're like, oh, I didn't even know that would be good, but now that's perfect and even better than what I anticipated. You know?
Exactly, because sometimes during an interview, they can surprise you and they can pull out a factoid from nowhere about a movie that they're not even tangentially related to. And you think, wow, that's great. I can put that in this segment here. So it's like a living script that grows as we interview people.
It's very true, and you just have to be open and flexible for going back to the drawing board with better material. And I'm that, that's why I say it's blood, sweat, and tears, because I will have things that are completed, and then I get some magical moment, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go back and make it work, because it would be a crime not to include it just because I was like, "Ah, I already did it already," you know? Yeah, I don't think anyone, I would like to think no one thinks that that's how we approach these documentaries, but, at the end of the day, ever since the first In Search of Darkness, it's about what would I wanna see as a fan, and if I know I'm sitting on gold, I'm gonna put the gold in there.
Absolutely. Well, I think we have run out of time for questions, unfortunately.
Okay.
We have gotten through all of the preordained questions.
Oh,
A
okay.
couple of live questions that have come through. Geordie is asking, is there anyone who we wanted to interview, but for whatever reason you couldn't get them and sit down? We did discuss that a little bit earlier on. Yeah, there's always people we want to talk to, and for one reason or another, a famous recent example was we wanted to talk with Tony Todd, and unfortunately he passed. And we were going to sit down with Tony. It was just an unfortunate scenario. We didn't know. No one knew. It was a surprise and a shock and a shame. So there are always events like that. We always want to speak to a lot of people, and for whatever reason, uh, timing, people are busy. We have to get the movie out at some point. Personal tragedies. There's a multitude of reasons why we can't sit down with people, and it is just the nature of the biz. So obstacles that we simply can't climb for one reason or another.
Yeah. It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast. And here's what I could say. At the end of the day, uh, we have so much amazing material. We get so many great interviews, and there's always going to be, why didn't you do that movie, or why didn't you get that person? And it's very easy as a passive observer to sort of look at this thing as a whole and say, well, why didn't they do this? Didn't they think of doing that? And it's out of our hands now. John Carpenter said to me, it's like, when I finish my movie, it's out of my hands. And people can make of it what they will.
That's
uh
another good problem to have, though. People asking for more in such detail. Why didn't you get that one actor from Cube to talk about this one particular scene? It is great that these movies are giving everyone such vigor and hunger to learn about every single detail, and it's great. I highly suggest everyone try and get as much information as possible. It's the only way that these movies will keep on living.
Very much so. I'm looking at a couple of the last ones that are in here, but I want to say that, as we wrap up, that if you can spread the word, social media, chit chat with your friends, make a video
Show
about
'em the
your
trailer.
your spooky season, share the trailer. Dominic works like, he works an 8-day week putting together our amazing socials, and a lot of creative content. Share the content around. What we're really trying to do this time around is carve new avenues to find new people who have not heard of In Search of Darkness, and spread the word. And believe it or not, that's kind of harder to do than you would think. And we make no assumptions that people know about In Search of Darkness. There's always horror fans who are like, oh, I've never heard of this, I have to check it out. And so word of mouth is incredibly important, just like any movie. If you like a movie, you tell your friends. Well, if you like In Search of Darkness, tell your friends, and make an effort to spread the word, because the more people uh, uh, get involved in this whole grand experiment we're doing, the more we get to do more. So spread the word. Between now and Halloween at midnight, tell people to go to 90shorrordoc.com or check out our socials at 80shorrordoc, and also go check out the trailer. Couple other little announcements also. Please, everyone, make sure you're looking for that email coming in early to mid-November about filming a video of yourself. Keep it to 30 seconds. If it's longer, I just can't include more people.
Please, we have to cut like bits to like chop it down to 30. It needs to strictly be 30. We need it to be 30 seconds or
And
less.
apologies in advance if I can't include you. I appreciate the effort that you make, but we have a limited amount of time. But it doesn't matter how fancy or how simple. It's about how pure your love for horror is. Talking about, I love 90s horror. I love horror because I love this filmmaker because, relative to the 90s. Also, I think it's another little surprise that I want to mention is that we did this for the anniversary, the 5-year anniversary of In Search of Darkness. We did a little special thing last year around Halloween, and that is we did a 24-hour live stream on YouTube of In Search of Darkness. We are going to be doing that again. We're going to be doing an In Search of Darkness Hallow stream for 24 hours on Halloween. Films to be announced nearer the time, but ultimately keep your eye out for that, and we'll get you that link. But that's another way to share it with your friends and let people know, because the In Search of Darkness, the first one, it's not on Shudder anymore. The second one's not on Shudder anymore either. So good way to spread the word. Everyone,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for your support. I know we had a more condensed sort of backer Q&A thing because we didn't start until about halfway this year with our campaign for In Search of Darkness 95 to 99. But the movie is super exciting. It's super long just for you guys in a good way. I'm very, very, very excited. Our team has put together another magnum opus. You guys are all going to get to see it because after our pre-order campaign at 90shorrordoc.com, ending midnight Halloween, you'll get the digital copy of it in December to be able to watch. And then we manufacture, distribute the Blu-ray, and that comes out. It ships intended for January. So you'll get it January or February when it finally gets to you. But spread the word. We love you guys. We love your enthusiasm. And this is the best time of year because it's Halloween. Halloween is spooky season. Yeah.
Spooky season's the best season.
So thanks everybody. Thank you, Dom, for being here and being my especially if I was going to glitch and freeze, to pick up the slack. Thank you to Andrew Dalton behind the scenes. Thank you to everyone at Creator VC, Robin Block, all the way down, for your amazing creativity. We're very fortunate to be able to get to do what we do, and we're so happy to do it with you guys. So until next time, everyone, take care.
Yeah. Happy Halloween, guys.